Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Meets in Midgard. It is me, your host, Mac Valentine, and I do my own little show where I interview other heathens to get their point of view, their um, expertise, and just general advice and such. So I have special guests today, returning guests, Will Phillips and Colby Hardkey, both of whom you have seen last week um, as we were talking about Loki and his brood. And we got through about half the questions that I wanted to get through. So we are now going through and going to finish that up with part two. So, Will, Colby, welcome back.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, so last week was absolutely on fire. It was awesome. I loved it. We covered a lot of really good things and concepts, I'm telling you, that just blew my mind that I had never considered before, from Jormungandr's uh, the concept of borders and his existence, like in the universe, just like how large he was, to the fact that Emir's brain still functions because matter cannot be destroyed. And it's just like, that was my whole like a thing from it. And it inspired me so much. Like I had, for those of you that don't know, I'm a musician. And so I was like, oh man, tinkering with ideas for songs and stuff. So, I'm going to have to give you both some writing credits on that. But yeah, so I learned, just when you think you know a lot, you get other people in and their points of view and concepts that they have in their own personal life translate out, and it just, you end up learning more. So thank you both so much for joining me today. Hopefully we have more of those mind-blowing moments. I'm sure we will. So yeah, so just to recap. Oh, hey, Sanford. Just to recap, we talked about Loki and how each of you relate to him personally, his role in the Norse myths, and why he's such a divisive figure, his shape-shifting nature, and what lessons we can learn from Loki in modern day heathenry. Then we started breaking down his brood. So we talked about Hel, Fenrir, and we left off there. We did touch a bit on Jormungandr and Hel when we talked about which seem to be the most misunderstood of his brood. And Will, you have a real connection with Jormungandr. So I'm going to lead off on this question with you, because this is where we left off last week. We didn't get a chance to cover the rest of the kids. So let's go ahead and start off, if you guys don't mind. Well, say hello first. I'm hogging the whole thing already. I'm not.
Well, you're the host, so I mean,
no one talks except me.
aye, Captain.
So, Will, how are you doing this morning?
I'm fired up now. I'm fired up. I'm good and loose. I'm excited.
He's finally awake.
Yeah.
Hey, you're finally awake.
The transformation in just the last 5 minutes was incredible.
It is just the guy that wakes up in Skyrim, like on the cart, and he's just like, oh.
Hey, you're finally awake.
Exactly. The game begins.
Yeah.
Colby, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. Just enjoying the lovely sounds of the blowing winds. That sounds like it's like, I don't know, probably 60 miles an hour. It's not, but it sounds like it some days or some point. So yeah, that's fun.
The breath of Odin.
Yeah.
It's right there with you.
Ari's blowing hard right now.
Oh, yeah.
He's trying to tell you something. You better listen. So let's start this off. Let me have another drink of my coffee first. Jormungandr encircles the world, destined to battle Thor at Ragnarok. What do you think this symbolizes in a larger spiritual or existential sense? Thor and Jormungandr, which we both know both of them fall in Ragnarok. So, how does this translate in a larger spiritual sense? What does it represent for you?
So you actually bring up a really good question. Because I don't know if are you familiar with Ari Tiger?
Yes. Oh my gosh, love him.
Yeah, he actually made a video. I want to say probably 4 or 5 years ago, going into the connection between serpents and Norse spirituality, and he had a section about uh, Jormungandr, of how, of course, Jormungandr is portrayed in the myths as something that is, if we're talking about Snorri's version, something that's not so nice, not so good.
Mhm.
Um, and he was saying he was kind of using Thor as a metaphor. In Ari's interpretation, it was Thor was a metaphor for Christianity, uh, slaying uh, Christianity, killing the serpent, killing paganism, although
Okay.
taking a blow itself.
Mhm.
Um, so there's definitely, I think there's like some kind of that symbology as well. But he also made a really good point about how in in like an animistic perspective, um, you know, uh, Jormungandr mirrors the Ouroboros, but he also mirrors snakes and serpents. At least in most animistic cultures, are representative of fertility. They're representative of the earth. They're representing of essentially they represent like eternity, essentially the cycle of life, the cycle of the universe. So he brought up an interesting point, um, where essentially, if Thor were to kill that aspect, if he's able to, um, the question is, why would he do that if it's so important? Um, and I think, and I've actually had to think about this for a long time because he didn't give a definitive answer. Because he was like, yeah, I mean, like, why does Thor kill Jormungandr if Jormungandr is so important for the cosmos and just the spiritual aspect, and to weird, the web of weird itself, to the inner god or Newton god. And I think it is just kind of like that uh, cataclysmic, of course, it being Ragnarok, but it is essentially when we talk about the order and the chaos. Um, when you see, essentially, because this is the Ragnarok is the foretold. This is the fall of the Aesir, and the Aesir look at this as like we cannot lose. We were destined to lose, but we can't lose. Otherwise, everything falls apart. And so I think because of their Odin, what Odin sees from the dead Cirrus, it leads the other gods win at Ragnarok is that they have to, one they're fighting for their lives, and two, when you're fighting for your life, it's hard to kind of think clearly. because you're trying to save, like, oh, we're trying to save our realm from being destroyed. So it's like it is like that kind of like that different perspective of like
Mhm.
how you look at it. It's like you're looking at Thor's perspective. This giant snake showed up. um I forget the name of the field where um the battle takes place. But just imagine, Jormungandr coming out of the sea, coming onto the battlefield. While you're fighting, you're smacking giants with your hammer. You're just like, uh, I'm not letting the snake, destroy my home.
Mhm.
And then it's so Thor brings that complete, because I would almost say Thor isn't completely an agent of order, because he is so much, there is so much Jotnar in him. His
Mhm.
order is very kind of chaotic, where it's like, um instead of like a diplomacy thing, it's like I smack things, ask questions later kind of deal. So when I think of Thor battling the world serpent, to kind of summarize this, is it's essentially too much order trying to fight against too much chaos, and they end up kind of just like canceling each other out.
Mhm.
um and it just kind of creates this shockwave or this aftermath, because now you destroy, the fate, kind of like the strength of the Aesir with Thor dying. And then you also kind of destroy kind of like the the, the continuation of um keeping all the things in reality together, or keeping it in check. So it almost kind of reminds me of, when if Jormungandr dying and then Thor dying. It's like, kind of similar to like the ending of the universe, where it's
Mhm.
sometimes it's either gravity will win, or it's the antimatter wins, because they're kind of like pulling each other apart. And
Right.
it'll either like keep expanding until like it just stops expanding and everything ceases to exist, or it'll expand and then it'll come back and just implode, like kind of like a reverse Big Bang. It How I kind of understand it. So it kind of reminds me of Thor, again, Thor battling the World Serpent. It kind of reminds me of the death of the universe, when it just ceases to exist. So that's kind of what it reminds me of, or it kind of like symbolizes for me.
That's a good point. And also if you bring it down to like a more personal level, um, Thor representing us like as mankind, fighting under the banner of Manas, protecting mankind, and then Jormungandr is like holds our existence together, that boundary of it. And when they both clash and cancel it out, it's also like it could symbolize our own death and passing into a new existence, and that could be physical, it can be mental, awareness, a new revelation that sparks in your mind. So that battle, I think, can translate on a lot of different levels, and eventually, we're gonna, not in our lifetime, but the universe is going to change in a way that we're not going to understand, and that very much could be there for that point. So yeah, and it just popped in my head too that like throughout the lore and in Ragnarok, there are certain entities that have certain nemesis, like Odin and Fenrir, Heimdall and Loki, and then you have Thor and Jormungandr. Oh, and just a question off the top of my head: why do you think Thor and Jormungandr are paired off like that? What is their, are they representing opposites of some sort or some different kind of struggle?
Yeah, I kind of think that they're. I'd have to agree with you. I think they are kind of like opposites to each other. I mean, you got well, just physically, um, Thor's a big burly man with red hair and beard and a
Oh,
big big ass
stop it.
hammer.
Stop it. I'm kidding.
Uh, Good. Yeah. But you look at him, and then you look at Jormungandr, which is pretty much the opposite. It's just a
Mhm.
it's a giant serpent. It's a giant serpent. Um, so they're kind of representing stuff on pretty much the opposite ends of the spectrum. I
Mhm.
mean, Jormungandr is probably almost as he represents something as about as primordial as you can get. Although he's not as old as all of the more primordial Thorsar or Jotnar. He represents kind of like that base soul primordial cosmic aspect of just keeping everything together and be the stuff the stuff that holds everything together, but also it's the force that drives change and drives everything in such unpredictable ways.
Mhm.
um and then with Thor, he kind of actually, you know what, they kind of, because they're both chaos in a way, but they're also ordered in the same way. So actually, you know what?
Mhm.
Thinking about it, they're actually more similar when it
That
comes
was
to
that
aspect.
was just crossing my mind when you were saying that.
So
Oh my
here's
gosh.
a interesting concept to add into that and to their parallels and symbology behind them that I just kind of thought about and never really put thought into now. The aspect of Thor being known for his anger and Jormungandr poisoning Thor could almost
Mhm.
be seen in a way of if your anger goes uncontrolled, it can poison your mind
Mm.
in a symbolic way.
Oh,
Here we go again.
that's yeah. Learn. I'm ready to learn today from both of you.
Oh my gosh. We're in what, 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh wow. That is oh wow. What great
So yeah,
content.
yeah. I mean, you don't control your anger. You let it rule you. You cause all this destruction and this chaos in your wake, only to be end up being poisoned yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, that is wow. I better check my anger. So someone at that, a lot of stuff that's going on in the world and with my job and stuff. And someone was like, someone had made a comment like, "Why are you so hateful?" And I was like, "I'm not hateful. I'm angry." There's a difference. And then I got to thinking like, "Oh my gosh, is this? Am I? There's a time to be angry, and then a time to like put yourself in check." I think I'm at that point where I need to put myself in check because that was a great point, Colby.
I mean, anger can be used in a beneficial way if you learn how to control it and use it in a just manner. But
Mhm.
if you let it go unchecked, then it's just going to be a nightmare for you and those around you.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say that, Kobe. I was gonna quote Kratos, where he's like,
I,
when he
I
talks
was
to
reading your
Atreus,
mind.
it's like anger can be a weapon if you control it, harness it. I was like, that was exactly what came out. I'm like, you beat me to it.
I lack self control, so I'm in trouble. But yeah, so wow, already, dang, right off the bat. Colby, I know you jumped in on there, but does the battle between Thor and Jormungandr represent anything else to you, that a concept or something?
I mean, no, more of a concept that I was going to touch about that Will brought up with the connections of snakes and in an animistic viewpoint. There's some ideas that snakes are guides to the lower realms. And just as a reminder for those who may not know or didn't catch it last time, the lower realms don't necessarily mean darker, evil realms. Just the entities that reside there, and that concept, like you brought up, Will, the lower, the middle, and the higher realms, where the different entities live. And that was something that I was kind of taught, and that considering the depth of Jormungandr as a whole in his symbology, his size, and how much he encompasses just everything that resides in that realm, the information that we can find if we can learn to dive into those depths of the waters.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like during meditation, I didn't think of that, but I know when I meditate, I like to travel, and I've never um, hailed Jormungandr before, and maybe I should if I want to be traveling.
Yeah.
I'm just a thing. I never thought about that. So wow, go places I haven't been.
I always kind of see Jormungandr being like the tether or the rope that kind of just binds the middle world together. But
Mhm.
what you said, Colby, has got me thinking almost that he almost has, because he's just so massive. I don't think he just wraps around, the middle world. I think he touches. I think he touches all three. I think he touches the upper, the middle, and the lower world. It would
Mhm.
make sense because almost like when I think about
Mhm.
like with the show, with the concept of Yggdrasil, the world tree, and tying it into like animism and like shamanic practices. It would make sense that like Jormungandr is like coiled around the base of the world tree. I mean, of course, you have Nidhogg at the roots, and then you have the four stags at the top, but you have Nidhogg, wrapping around the tree, like kind of connecting everything, or having his being so large that he can sit in different facets of different realms, and
Mhm.
kind of almost being like, and I almost thinking about this now, it's almost like he could be some kind of uh if somebody's having trouble with journeying and trying to go to the different realms or different worlds, they follow Jormungandr. They follow Jormungandr through it because it almost seems like a pathway.
Mhm.
Uh because I mean, like, you if you're walking on an Ouroboros, you're just gonna go in a circle. So like,
Right.
but like when when you have something like almost like a stair, he's almost like a spiral staircase if you think about it. He's sitting in
Mhm.
different worlds and having his massive body in like different realms. You could kind of take things like a staircase, go up or go down. And
Um, yeah. So, and Jessica Meredith, thank you for your comment in there. She says liminal spaces, which are the spaces in between the spaces, and that is, and it could be physical, like the in between stories of a building. There's a space in between the stories, or it could be, metaphysical. And when you're, traveling through realms, I think that's a great point. Jormungandr can be in those liminal spaces. He can take you in between from one place to another and exist in the spaces in between. And then Sanford says that the borders touch other realms, which Jormungandr himself, could definitely, being representative of a border means that he can cross in or be in all the other realms as well, touching each one. So,
And kind of seeing another comment by Sanford about, he could be one who blocks individuals from passage to that realm, which are unprepared. That could be
mhm.
another aspect of tying into the connection with Thor and Jormungandr and their battle. And are you willing to overcome that fear to face those challenges that lay before you? Because I mean, either way you look at it, Thor still goes up and fights Jormungandr. He may be, for all we know, completely scared out of his mind. Considering what we know about Thor, it's not likely, I would say.
if he
But
Right.
you
was, we
don't
would
know,
be
and you
we'd be
still have
saying,
to confront those challenges that are coming.
Hmm. each of the gods going into Ragnarok, it's like they all know their fate, and it's not going to end well. But they go in, fearless anyway, knowing that
Yeah.
is what they're called to do. This is their fate. This is their destiny, and you can't avoid it. So go into it, with all of yourself, and face it. So
I almost kind of interpreted, the Aesir going into battle in Ragnarok. Uh, I don't know what it sounds like. It sounds like a trying negative portrayal, but I'm not. It's not my intention. But they go. It almost feels like they go into. So at least some of them go into Ragnarok, trying to change the outcome of it.
mhm.
And you know, of course, not all of them, but some of them definitely, in my mind, kind of do. Um, and that kind of just makes me want to reflect that sometimes you can't avoid things and you can't change the outcome. And you just kind of have to, take it on the chin, put on a smile, and just go do it anyways. It'll suck,
Mhm.
but I mean, you know, if you try
Yeah.
to fight it, it's just gonna make it worse. And I mean, if the gods just chose to do nothing, or if they just chose to hide away, then like, well, Midgard would probably get destroyed, and then just a whole bunch of other stuff would happen. And it's just like, well, we kind of have to, we don't really have a choice in the matter now.
Right. That's a good point. Even
Yeah.
knowing, you still have to, even knowing the fate or what's going to happen in the end doesn't mean you should give up or not try, you
Yeah,
know, any
it's
less. So,
as Master Uguay once said, one often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it.
hmm, well said.
Yeah, and I mean, just with that confronting fate, I've had this conversation a few times with some client, or not clients, coworkers, because they make comments I'm pessimistic. I'm like, no, not really. I'm just realistic, knowing that eventually I'm going to die. We're all going to die. There's no avoiding that. And we get in these discussions and like, okay, here's a scenario. You have one of three options on how you're going to die. It's going to happen either way. So which one are you going to face? Which one are you going to confront? It's knowing the outcome is still going to be the same, but you have that limited choice of how to confront it. Do you cower? Do you fear from it? Or do you just basically flip it off and say, bring it on?
Well said. I think so many times we don't consider that, and people resign themselves to that fate without um, putting in that fight. And I think it's important to make sure that your who you are doesn't fail or falter. Your character shouldn't falter just because your fate might be predestined for something else, or for a result that you don't want. So that's good. Good stuff. This is good stuff. um, Sanford says pre-science counts for itself. To attempt to alter fate is often to become the motivation for that fate. And that was very much the case for Odin himself.
Yeah.
You know, Jessica does say, I don't work much with Thor, but this is a good lesson from the sphere. Thank you, Jessica, so much. Appreciate that. So, yeah, Jormungandr. Whew. And another thing with him is there's not a lot about him. And so he kind of goes overlooked, I think. And people don't really consider him as far as like a snake. What kind of personality can a snake have? What kind of characteristics, without going into what it represents, um, and culturally, especially back then compared to now. And then, will your concept of encircling and being like this border is great. Sanford made a point to as well, Colby, that you had pointed out that he can provide passage or block passage. We always think like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go. It's going to be this ride. We never thought stop to think that maybe we shouldn't, or
Yeah.
that something is going to stop us. And it's a necessary. Sometimes it really is.
I mean, he can act like a guardrail sometimes, so that you don't like, go flying off the edge, and then you got to deal with the rest of the spiritual world. So he's just like,
Mhm.
hey man, you're kind of going a bit fast here. I'm gonna be right here so you don't
Right.
jump off go off the edge.
Yeah.
Or in the context of when you are journeying and traveling to the other realms, knowing your way not only there, but knowing how to get back and not getting lost in those liminal spaces, in those realms, being just completely blown away. And this is something that I know I've talked to you about, Mac, and I'll do a personal video about it. But that aspect of shamanic soul retrieval comes in play with this, because if you get stuck, there's a lot of consequences to that.
I will speak personally to that because, yes, Colby, we've talked about that. And that is something I struggle with. I put everything into the journey out there and save nothing for the journey back. And that is a real problem. So it does have consequences. And, that's something I am learning about and working on, myself personally. So that is a good thing to keep in mind. For everybody, not just me.
Yeah. You're going to journey and make sure you know how to get back
Yeah.
safely.
Make sure you leave some breadcrumbs out or some string.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't eat the breadcrumbs, just put them on the ground.
I'm on a diet right now, so I would eat the breadcrumbs. I haven't had a carb in 6 weeks. Not kidding. So we've talked about Loki's brood from Angerbotha, but Loki has other children as well. Wouldn't you know? And let's talk about one where Loki actually gave birth when he was a horse, to as part of a plan and blah blah blah. It's in the lore. To prevent the builder from finishing the wall, he distracted the builder's horse, and basically tempted the horse and ran away, and Loki ended up having a child. And this is Sleipnir. And what a story that is, all in its own. There's so many things you can take from that one story, and Loki's transformation, changing sexes, changing into an animal, giving birth, a lot of things. That could be a whole thing on itself. But let's just talk about Sleipnir for now. Sleipnir, the eight-legged steed, is both a child of Loki and a gift to Odin. How does this represent, or how does it reflect the complexity of Loki's relationship with the gods? And Colby, I'll let you take the lead on this one, if you would.
So I think the first point you touch about is the complexity of him, is the aspect of the adaptability of him to change to the situation that involves him, whether it's for the benefit or the harm against, for lack of better terms right now, the disharmony and chaos against the gods. He still has that ability to adapt to his surroundings, to not only save his own neck, but to make these. I'm trying to think. My brain's going out on me right now. I apologize. I lost my train of thought, but
A lot of thoughts popping in your head at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To just be able to really just, like I said, lack better terms, just adapt to his surroundings. And I think just an interesting concept on the story of the birth of Sleipnir. And this was a podcast that I listened to, which I really enjoy and I've recommended. It's called Norse Mythology, the Unofficial Guide.
Yeah.
Each episode's only like 30 minutes long, so it's not a long podcast.
Mhm.
But in that, the host was talking about this birth of Sleipnir with Spotify and the canon that we as heathens have placed on it, that Loki did give birth to Sleipnir. And I'm not saying that it's not wrong, that it's wrong, but it's an interesting, different viewpoint to just bring into this, since this is brought up. And his viewpoint was saying that, for all we know, Loki may have just found Sleipnir, that they just ran off into the forest, and that's the end of what we truly know.
Mhm.
And it's just an interesting concept to think about of, well, was it, if he gave birth to Sleipnir, was it with Svaldarfari, or was it with something else that we don't even know about?
True.
So that could bring in that aspect of what exactly is Sleipnir, what is exactly his origins. But the fact that he is Odin's speed and a gift to Odin, I think solidifies their relationship as their blood brother bond, and giving that gift to Odin, saying that essentially, I may be causing you a lot of chaos, but I'm still honoring our bond, our relationship together. So
Mhm.
I'm giving you this powerful steed that is the fastest steed for you, All Father.
Mhm. And let's just clear up some Marvel misconceptions really quickly here. Loki and Thor are not brothers.
No, they are not. If anything, Loki would be more like Thor's uncle.
Yeah, because Loki and Odin are blood brothers or oathed brothers. So, just so people have that in their head, right?
Which, I mean, all due respect, just for those who don't know, since you brought up Marvel, just for clarification on why it was portrayed the way it was, Stanley dove into the lore some to get a very basic understanding. His intention was just to bring awareness of the Norse gods back to modern culture. That was it. But he is still Stanley. He still wrote his portrayal of things in his comic book fashion.
Yeah, everyone's free to have that liberty to take
Yeah.
some artistic liberties and stuff, which is cool. And I think he did he piqued a lot of interest in Norse culture, which is pretty cool. A benefit to that. So I think a lot of people were drawn to it, or might not have discovered it if it weren't for such things. Even and this is a thing. Like I know there are certain things, like people that are seasoned heathens with salt and pepper. I'm kidding. Seasoned, but might like frown upon certain things that are bringing people in. Like, if someone's played God of War, or someone watched a certain show or something, and it's like, but because sometimes that will kind of breed this like brosatru kind of thing going on. But through all of that, there are people that truly find significance in it and really dive in and follow that path. And I think that's pretty awesome myself. So
God of War Thor is the best Thor, and I will die on that hill.
I agree. I agree.
There's a terrible, terrible portrayal of Thor on this. It looks like a made for DVD movie on Tubi. And it is so bad, but I couldn't stop watching it. I'll have to, I don't remember the name of it, but I'll share it with you guys later when I find it. But it was just
Do a heathen movie. Do a heathen reviews like Viking movie review or something like that. Like heathen reviews bad Viking movies. Do that. That'd be good.
that's not a bad idea. You guys will have to join me for it though.
We'll have to get Sanford in on that too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sanford, I can just see like he'd just be like,
Yeah.
just like, what is this?
Oh, 5 minutes in, he'd get up and walk out. I already know it.
The lore is so bad. He's just like
He'll be
he's
stopping
like
it
pulling
like
his hair out. Like, yeah, no.
every 30 seconds. He's stopping it. And he's like,
He's
well,
like-
actually,
Like the nerd with the glasses emoji. Well, actually,
Yeah.
I love you, Sanford.
Yes, Edward, we love
Yes,
you.
we love you, Sanford.
um, and so yes, so uh, William, what a, Sleipnir's gift to Odin? What does that represent as far as the complexity of Loki's relationship with the gods? Where did you take it? What are your ideas?
Well, again, I'm gonna refer to Arith Hargar, and actually, I'm gonna refer a little bit to um Ruin Caldno from the Nordic Animism channel.
Oh
Um,
gosh, both of those are great channels, by the way, you guys.
yeah,
Awesome. I love them.
highly recommend both of them.
Mhm.
But I think they kind of like compare it, but the same talk like they kind of came to the same conclusion. Where at least in like an animistic culture, um, it's Odin, um, of course, being able to travel to different realms and being able to shapeshift into different animals. He turned into gosh, he turned into an eagle because he like pooped in somebody's face.
Mhm.
I don't remember if he turned into anything else. If I'm
Yeah, he actually, to get the meat of poetry, when they drilled that hole in the side of the mountain to get in, he turned it to a snake, I believe, to get
Oh,
in.
okay.
So yeah, Othin is able to use Sather to,
I just remember the part where he's flying. He's got the mead in his mouth,
yeah,
and then just like that.
he shits on the, yeah,
Yeah, that
and
was
that's the bad poetry.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But um, because of how kind of realm travel works, or how the gods and people could travel to different realms. You either have to change your hammer, you have like shape shifting, or you have to walk a really long way. Or in terms of Thor, riding his little cart a really long way, and that's how he gets to different runs. He rides, and so suddenly he's in Jotunheim.
Mhm.
Um, and similar thing to um, Odin turning into he's like you said turning into a snake to get into the mountain. He's probably traveling, probably traveling into a different part of Jotunheim or something like that that requires him to change his hammer. Um,
Mhm.
um, but when I look at Sleipnir, and of course we know the story where he you know rides to hell to try to get Balder back.
Mhm.
Um, he of course rode Sleipnir. He didn't have to change his hammer. He didn't have to change his. He didn't have to run a long way to get into hell. Run like down a long flight of stairs to get into the underworld. Um, he rode Sleipnir. He rode Sleipnir because he needed to go fast and he needed to get there like now. So he's like, and that kind of what Sleipnir kind of represents is that bridge, that um accessibility to the realms without needing to change your hammer, to
Mm.
change your astral or spiritual appearance, so you can realm travel, or you don't have to spend all that time. Um, some uh, I know some people, just looking at through the comments of this video, some people interpreted Sleipnir as some kind of psychedelic that people would take um, uh, during trance state or meditation states, or like during like shamanic practice.
Mhm.
Of course, it could be the common thinking is that it's the fly garlic mushroom prepared very specifically.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's toxic. But they think that was abundant in Scandinavia and up into Finland. Um,
Mhm.
and then and also this at least in the Sapmi um, tradition, they have tails and they have like the aspect of a believe it is either an eight-legged or nine-legged reindeer. Um, and it kind of mirrors Sleipnir in a way where it's able to be, a guide or be that a traveler, something that you follow or ride to get to different worlds. Again, like probably in like the Sapmi tradition, you have the upper, middle, and lower world being a very shamanic, very like very having very very shamanic culture. You have being able to being practicing reindeer herders. um it's going to be a sacred animal to them, and so that having that eight-legged or nine-legged reindeer, um it just allows them to is that guide, that entity that helps them guide through the different worlds. And so I think of when Loki gave excuse me, when Loki gave Sleipnir to Odin, he was giving him another way of uh, amplifying Odin's Seidr power, amplifying his like his like shamanic um, abilities, because
Mhm.
he's able to travel quickly. Where sometimes it could take hours. Sometimes for people to take, it might take a long time to do some drumming or to do some breath work. Um, where you might need to do something quickly. Um, Odin might use like Sleipnir, or in a metaphorical sense, use that kind of like quick travel to get himself into that state immediately. Um,
Mhm.
so it could be him taking a rite, to take some kind of psychedelic concoction, and then to have Sleipnir appear and then travel right there in his kind of dream state, or this kind of like altered state of consciousness. Um, so I just kind of thought that watching both of those videos, and they make very excellent uh, observations, a lot more articulate than what I can do. But it was very much a sense of like Sleipnir was a gift to Odin to help him with his shamanic and Seidr abilities, and also to help him travel the realms a
And
lot faster.
Will, I want to kind of just bring up something that, yeah, I mean, just thank you. I didn't really think about it that sense, but putting that
Me either.
thought of the shamanic drumming into Sleipnir and the repetition of his eight hooves
Mhm.
beating against whatever surface he is, symbolic of that drumming and that repetition and that rhythmic pattern, you know, and the different frequencies to which we can use in drumming to get to those altered states. And, a 4-beat pattern could get us to one aspect, whereas, the eight hooves, the 8-beat, the faster rhythm can get us there quicker or even help us return or whatnot. But that is a very interesting point I didn't think about. So thank you for bringing that up. As a little, just because, Loki connection, right? Little humor I want to add in that, when you were talking about Thor and you phrasing it with his little cart. And I have to add this for the sheer comedy. All I could think about was just the way that Loki likes to add that mischief of just insults at times, and in the sometimes worst possible situations to get him in the most absolute trouble. And I could almost just see him saying, "Oh, look, Thor, your cute little goats and your little cart, and you're this big, strong man, and you have to ride this little cart. But look what Odin gets to ride."
That's a
Your
good point.
wee tiny cart for such a big burly man.
Like, you're riding a cart, you little bitch.
So I want to jump in really quick because those were things I never thought of. Again, changing your Hamir to travel in between realms, uh, Sleipnir being a means to travel quickly, even just a means to travel between realms, period, Um, and there's some comments too that I want to hit on in the comment section. But those are things like I seriously didn't even think of. Like, I just thought, oh, what a great horse. Othin rides him. Yay,
Nice horsey.
yeah, the wild hunt and blah blah blah. But the things I wasn't, just putting my mind to think about. So, you know, um, either way that you travel between realms, Jessica Meredith makes a point that it sounds like magic is still needed in either method, whether it's quickly or whether you're taking the long route, and that is true. Sanford says, I like how we're using Hamir. The gods not being a physical realm would not have leak here, so they would project their Hamir into this realm. Uh, Therefore, we're not bound by the physical limitations as we know them. So,
For those of you that don't know what leak is one of the aspects of the Norse parts of the soul. It's your physical body.
yes, your physical actual appearance. So, yes, thank you for saying that. I just assume everybody knows all these things, and I shouldn't.
Yeah, I have to like not to take a poop on Sanford, but like sometimes they'll like come up with these advanced concepts that are like in Old Norse, and I'm like I'm a linguistics. I like linguistics. I deal a lot in like reconstructed Proto-Germanic stuff because I just like that language. It'll come up with certain things, and even he'll come up with things that I'm just like, I'm sorry, what? Can you explain this again?
As he so aptly commented on the side, well, actually.
Well, actually, Ayla makes reference to the drumming, and she said that is actually reflected in Lakota drumming in relation to buffalo stomping. So, I mean, we take these, and this is what I love about heathenry. It's so like you take it from one culture to the next or whatever, and there's so many things that just tie everything together. That's like these universal parts of it, from the Lakota to the Norse, there are elements that are shared between it all and how it ties in with nature and what they represent. So yeah, that's a really cool concept for me that I love.
And just to kind of touch on Ayla's one comment about, have you seen how huge goats can be? Yes. I'm aware there are some very big goats.
It's just again, it's the screaming goats from Thor: Love and Thunder, where it's like, ah!
Okay, so that was the best part of the movie. Yeah. It was a weird one, but those goats, that was awesome. Oh my gosh. So we've touched on all of the oddities of Loki's brood. Let's talk a little bit about his normal children he had with Sigyn. So Narfi and Vali, and not too much is really known about them until we get to the story, the lore of Loki's binding, in which eventually is the catalyst to lead to Ragnarok. So Narfi and Vali are the sons of Loki through Sigyn. Some of the lore might project them as half brothers. I don't know I'm not so familiar with that, or brothers, and sometimes it only mentions one child.
It,
So
it's kind of the sources are kind of they don't conflict with each other. There's like some people think. I mean, like actually, there is like some evidence of this where it's like I think it's a mistranslation error, where like
mhm,
sons were not named Narfi Valley, and then like there's like a thing where Odin has a son named Valley.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I guess it really comes down to your interpretation.
Mhm.
But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and actually, I think that's you make a point there. Like, and like, some people are like, oh, well, this conflicts with this or blah blah blah, and I always think like this is lore, this is saga, this is not like some hard written thing. And when even when you tell one of the sagas, it is customary to embellish, and change it a little, make it your own. And this is something that wasn't memorialized in writing. It was spoken from one generation to the next. And little embellishments, different people's takes on things lead to different versions of the same story. I think people need to keep that in mind, that that's the nature of the lore, the nature of the sagas.
There- There's that, and then there's also the concept that beliefs change over time.
Hmm.
As a whole, I mean, what you believed was something 100 years ago is not going to necessarily be the exact same as it is today.
And the more we learn, the more our beliefs should change. The more
Yeah.
our mind expands. Like in some of the lore, you'll see where they talk about Jormungandr encompasses the earth, like just the earth, because they thought the earth was flat and that he kept the seas and the oceans in. But then as time changes, Jormungandr just lives in the ocean. It doesn't encompass it because the earth is round. It changes, like something like that. Lore would change, and with the knowledge or concepts, that the more we learn, the more we're adapting to. So yeah. So anyway, I went on my little tangent there. Sorry, folks. Narfi and Vali. So for those of you that don't know, in the binding of Loki and Loki Senna, uh, the gods have just had it with Loki after he insults them at the dinner and such, and so they drag him away, take him. Well, they find him first, which is another story. Heimdall, of course, is tasked with that. So they find Loki. They get him. They take him to this cave, and they bring him there. And with Sather, they transform Vali, one of Sigurd's sons, into this ravenous wolf who cannot even recognize his own brother, his own mother, his own father, and he rips his brother Narfi to shreds. And they use Narfi's entrails to bind Loki to a stone, and they place a serpent over, or Skadi herself places a serpent over Loki's head that drips poison. Sigyn is charged with holding this bowl to catch the poison over Loki's head. And when the bowl fills up, she has to step away to empty it. And the poison would drop on Loki, and he would scream, and the earth would shake. That was, earthquakes. And then she would return and hold the bowl over him again. And this happens until Loki is freed and Ragnarok ensues. Narfi and Vali, again, two of Loki's children. In your eyes, being that one turns into this wolf that just goes completely feral and primal, and the other that's ripped to shreds, what do they represent to you? Is it a personal reflection of two sides of the same person? Is it something that a catalyst that leads to something else? What's your take on it? Will, if you want to start.
Yeah. So again, we don't know a ton about Narfi and Vali. Again, sources are conflicting.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of I shouldn't say a lot, but um there's a there's a specific uh person who I tend to get some of the UPG from. Their name is Raven Caldera. They break the Jotun. They have written several books. They deal a lot with like Rokatrue. They're kind of responsible for bringing back, making Rokatrue or Jotnar worship kind of a thing. They're kind of a controversial figure. I don't agree with I don't agree with all their um, conceptions of things, of how I don't agree with all their UPG. There are some bits and parts that I agree with it, but one part that I do agree with is just um, how kind of Narthi and Vali were kind of taken as like kids
Mhm.
in this UPG. And I believe this. Um, Odin took Vali and mentored him in the ways of not necessarily being Ulfitnar, but teaching him in the ways of Seidr and Hamramr, which it means shape strong, which is shape shifting. Uh, be able to shapeshift and have these kind of uh, uh, these abilities within Seidr and just in more broadly terms like shamanic abilities. And then Narfi, I have to look this up again because I don't remember exactly. So it's his adopted mother. Okay, so Loki um mentored Narfi, and then Odin mentored Vali.
Volume. Mhm.
Um, and so Loki was also teaching him about shape shifting as well, but kind of from like a different perspective.
Mhm.
Kind of teaching him more, teaching more in the ways, just being a Jotnar, even being more close with his mother, um, and whatnot. But there's a story um, that I won't read all of it. I'll read a specific passage that I thought was really um, interesting. So the story takes place after um, Odin essentially transforms Vali into this beast of this uncontrollable monster, essentially. I don't a wolf, monstrous wolf that knows no face nor voice uh, nor uh, touch or anything. Um, so he goes off into the world after killing his brother and his father's all chained up.
Mhm.
He goes, he wanders, he wanders the realms, just killing and just just ravaging everything he sees. Um,
Mhm.
just a feral animal, and this is from the perspective of Angra. Again, this is a story, so it doesn't make it. So it's not in the lore, but it's a story that I very much agree with, and it's very much a story that I think every time I read it, I get teary eyed. But
Mhm.
in the accounting of sons, it seems only One Eye's tireless siring has brought him out ahead. It was my sky lads that found him, wandering the heaths. The race, the sky, the race, the sky each day and night. My skull and Hati, and their deal with the old man, which I disapproved of. They seemed content enough. Flight through the skies, exchanging, keeping sun and moon on track. It was they who found him, a lone brown wolf, raging mad through the rocks at his own flesh. They cornered him, nosed him, herded him slowly to me. They had grown up in the wood, not understanding his fear at entering. Are not all wolves welcome here? Mother, can you help him? Mother? But he was no wolf, not to start with. What had been done cannot be undone, save one small part of it, and that I did. I taught him to take back his own body, at least some of the time, when enough sanity lit the darkened mind. He had no training in the wear gift. His father's blood allowed the spell to wrap him, but he was a sheltered creature, a cozy hearth fire and fenced yard. He had no instincts. We fed him, bound his wounds. My sky lads held him with the warmth of their bodies. We coaxed scoop, we coaxed soup into his mouth when he sat, staring at nothing, rocking back and forth. Am I like him? He asked me one day. Not father nor grandsire. I knew not what he meant. No, lad, you are nothing like my great doom of a son. He is wrath, you are pain. He is at least whole in his rage, while you are broken, like pottery on the stone floor. Hold still, I will pace what I can with earth, spit, and magic. But some pieces are gone, and the madness leaks from the hole. So,
Oh my, gee, by the gods! I'm gonna start crying
yeah,
here.
I know
Yeah,
it's
that's pretty
sad.
heavy.
I've got like a tear in my eye right now. But it's
So, really quickly, Rachel is asking, is there a specific book you're referring to that she could purchase? So, what is this from again?
so this part so the book that Raymond Caldera wrote is called the Oten book. This story is not in it. It's on a website called northernpaganism.org, and you can they have like a bunch of they have like some digital shrines to different of the Jotnar, and they have one for Sigyn, and under Sigyn they have a thing specifically for Narfian Valley. I believe the story is called Holy Morning, honoring Sigyn Narfian Valley. Um, but essentially, the story is about Skull and Hati finding Narfi, essentially a half brother of theirs, but they just don't understand because like aren't all wolves welcome in the Ironwood? And here's Volley just he's completely lost his mind. He's a beast. He's nothing. Everything he touches, he kills. He eats. He consumes. He is just what Volley represents to me is when you take Sather or you take Hamramer, or even if you take like a Berserkerdam or Ulfidnar or War Warrior kind of stuff,
Mhm.
and you go too far with it. Um, Shape shifting and just save in general is something you need to have great respect for when you go into these practices. You can't just go in all willy nilly and be like, do this. And essentially, what happened because of the crimes that their father did, uh, the Aesir found it just to take the skills of save that and shapeshifting that Vali had, and they essentially cursed him to since you're so good at being a wolf and able to shapeshift, you will be that wolf, but you will not know your blood, and you will be a monster. And it's something. Again, this part is no fault of his own. He's kind of just, he's victim of the circumstance, but it's a cautionary tale of like because the Sather stuff are dealing with kind of like transformative spirits or dealing with certain aspects of yourself. If you're not careful, they can overtake you and you can lose yourself in it. And you might not be able to come out of that. And I haven't witnessed it personally, but I've talked to heathens who have seen that. And the person that has gone through that has had just they've spiraled into just a lot of stuff. And again, this stuff is really cool to learn about. It's all like really, it is, there is a joy and a fun in the aspect of it, but at the same time, it needs to be with any culture, with any kind of practice, you need to approach it with respect. Otherwise, you can lose yourself in it. So when I look at volley, at least, it reminds me of, well, I guess just both Nafi and volley. They represent just victims of circumstance. And then volley specifically, he is the cautionary tale of when Sather goes too far, or when shamanism goes too far, and you don't have that restraint. You don't have that wisdom to temper it. That's what can happen.
Yeah, I would actually really agree with those points, Will. Especially just with, say, magic, shamanic work, whatever type of magical work you're doing, is to know when to hold back, know your limitations, and kind of like what Ayla was bringing up too was the thought process in my head too. When you're first starting out, have somebody who can help you, guide you through it, and to help restrain you from going too far. Even when you're in that trance state, and this is something Kurt Hoogstraat brought up to me when I was under him. For those who do not know who he is, I know he's got a page on Facebook. I think it's Currents of Mystical Energy. It's his current page name. But he's a Gothian Vitki, and he's a very wise man in his practices. And he has several books on Amazon. One is Contemporary Sather. But taking only the time that you need to do the workings that you need, like no more than 30 minutes, knowing that you've had plenty of time to do what you need to keep that respect on the realm you're going to, the workings you're doing, and coming back and not spending too long getting stuck, getting lost, overstepping your boundaries. And on another aspect, more on the mundane physical aspect, a way we can look at the story of Vali and Narfi in our own lives is learning to restrain ourselves when emotions become too high, because we can lose ourselves in our mind, in our emotions. We can cause pain to those around if we don't learn to confront those darker sides of us, and that doing that shadow work that we all need to do, regardless of what your story is. So take the time. Yes, it sucks. I'm not denying that trauma sucks in general.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you do need to confront it. You need to realize this is not something that is going to be beneficial to me or to those I care about, and the repercussions that can come if you don't handle the situation appropriately.
So, man, I'm still reeling from that story. I am telling you,
It's so sad. It's so sad. I like when I read it. I don't know if you're familiar with Otzi and the Jupiter.
Oh yeah.
So like it was either Empty Moons, that song. That song is sad because it's like you can hear like a wolf howl in the background, but it just sounds like just a lone whale. And like I didn't even like think about it at the time, but it was like it playing in the background when I was like reading this, and I'm just like, oh my god! Like I was like, this is sad. This is so sad. But like it definitely because reading this story and then just kind of deep diving it more, it's led me to, because of how I do stuff with Kamramra and shapeshifting, especially with my Filgia, reading things with just starting working with volley, there's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of uncontrollable. He's similar to Farbauti in a lot of. He's similar to like his grandfather in a lot of ways. He's got that rage of Farbauti that, but he also has that kind of just that feralness where he's just gone. He's gone. Anything that moves, anything that moves, he will go after and devour. But in the story, again, Angrboda kind of, so like I can show you how to at least control it at bay.
Mhm.
And so working with Volley, it represents that two aspects of when you need to let loose that anger, when you need to let loose that feral animal, and obviously in a way that's not gonna be just destructive, um,
Right.
but also in a way where it's like he also teaches restraint and control because of how long he's dealt with this. He when he's able to return to human form, he's he knows he's able to provide that wisdom of like being able to show restraint, being able to be like, yeah, that beast within all of us, it's always been there. I mean, at the end of the day, we are still creatures of nature, we are still creatures of Midgard.
Mhm.
So we have that that animal aspect to us, but it's the wisdom and the the the, the temperance to be able to restrain that, to say, okay, I see the wild animal, but I can also see that I can respect it, and sometimes I'll take that aspect, but also kind of like take a step back and give it some space. You don't want to get too close to a wolf, or you don't want to get too close to a bison or buffalo, because you're in their personal space and they might trample you or bite you. Um,
Mhm.
but like being able to like invoke those aspects of those animals, it's a transformative thing, but it's also something that needs to be handled with great respect, great restraint, and with great wisdom. So that's kind of like the two aspects that Volley teaches.
I know this is going to sound like a kind of a cliche comment, but I think it fits in with that so well. And this comes from Spider-Man. Yes, I know I'm kind of nerding right now,
Mhm.
but with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, it kind of ties into that, as cliche as that may sound, but just taking that moment to step back and breathe and focus on what you need to do without letting your emotions, whether it's your emotions of anger or pain or your drive to learn more, do more, control every step you take. Take a step back, take it slow. There's no shame in taking it slow. There's no shame from walking away from situations that are going to cause you to do more harm to yourself than what you think you may do in that moment because emotions are overriding you.
Yeah,
You know, I was not expecting this today, but so much of what we are talking about right now is just hitting home personally for me as a thing right now. And I am like right now I'm truly moved. I'm learning, I'm soaking it in. I feel like this is all like something I needed to hear. Ayla and Colby, you both made the great point that to have a guide when you're first starting, to use those skills and stuff. Something I never did, and it was of great consequence to myself. Part of it is I'm a lone practitioner where I'm at, and the people that I bonded with and stuff are all out east. But some great upcoming news that I will be sharing later on next week that will change. So stay tuned for that. But it's difficult when you feel that you're just by yourself and like you don't have that kin around you to help guide you or to just to be with, and it leaves a longing with you, and it sometimes leads to poor decisions, because you're trying to fill a space or something. And I know with me personally, with when working with in a trance state or traveling through realms and stuff, I've made very poor decisions because I just want to. get there and be in that destination and find some solace, and I'm not wise about it. I didn't know enough. I was doing it alone. All these terrible things, and there's consequences to that. It
So,
doesn't always end well.
so Mac, I'm gonna interrupt you respectfully for a moment and just say, first and foremost, just because there is a physical distance between us doesn't mean you're alone. We have technology. You have ways to contact us. You have ways to reach out, and you need something, even if you have a question. If you, whoever you feel may be able to help give you that best answer, whether it's Ayla or Sanford or Will or anybody in our kindred, me, whatever, reach out. You're
Mhm.
not alone just because of that physical distance. But when I
And
first started to out too, I didn't have a guide. I was just kind of winging it, and it was very chaotic in a negative way to just wing it and not understand how to do things or how to bring yourself back, or even simple grounding methods was
mhm.
a concept I had no idea about. Like, all right, let's go into a meditative state. Let's just wing it on. Yeah, now here we are in whatever realm, and come back and like, where am I? And it's very confusing. But there
Yeah.
are people around you, like I said, even though it may not be physically, that can help you and will work with you, will help you. You are
Door-
still a brother.
And
Doors always open, man. Doors always
yeah,
open.
and that I think that's, and you guys, and just hearing that out loud, it soothes my soul. I I will, I will be calling on that. I'll be cashing in on that check. And I really think that other people in the community could need to do the same thing. Maybe they feel like because they're not in the same room with someone, um, that they can't reach out to people. And other heathens, other people, make yourself available to other people. You know, and be there for other people when they need you. So Sanford.
I just read that too.
What's your You're gonna go in that woods. You're gonna fuck that horse.
Sanford.
Sanford,
Well,
Sanford.
actually, um,
Sanford, no, I know you have a lot on your plate, and from things I've heard, I understand, but you have a lot of wisdom, and that's what is one of the biggest things that I think is just amazing about you and still blows my mind is that wisdom, that knowledge you have. And I'm not saying that, for anyone who needs help to just immediately reach out to them and say, hey, I need your help right here, right now. No, I mean, that's unrealistic.
yeah.
But I know that you can help guide people, and you've helped me a lot, and it's been appreciated. And the same with you, Will. Like, I actually had this thought on my way home yesterday. I was listening to, I can't remember who it was. I think I was listening to Amon Amarth. I don't remember exactly, but it got me thinking about today and the aspects of the interest in core shamanism, and how you and I have a lot more similarity in that than we may realize, because we haven't really talked much about it. I know we've talked some about it, but
We need what you're saying is we need to talk more.
well, yeah, I mean, I would love to talk
Yeah,
to you more
yeah,
about that.
absolutely.
But in
Yeah,
general, even like I said with you, Mac, I mean, you have people that you can talk to.
Hmm.
Use the advantages of technology that we have. You're not isolated.
let me just say this as well. I mean, Mac, I met you over when we did the heathen happy hours, which I will bring back, by the way. Uh, but I just remember, well, just just being able to see your face, uh, again during like the pandemic, and just being able to like, I remember like, I believe you had like some of the chats that you put on. I think you put on like some lore studies too, and the lore studies. I just remember going to those and just the intricacy of the knowledge that you have, and then also having like Sanford there as well, Sal there as well. few other people that aren't here anymore. They're not dead; they're just not here. But just I look at my own journey, and I mean, it's only been a heathen for 5 years. It's not super long. But the amount of people that have given me perspective, given me different kinds of, even now in this what we're doing right now, like the perspectives that you've given have, like, I've learned something, and it's something that I'm like, it's a completely different perspective that I want to look at. I want to dive into more. And I mean, shoot, I mean, you guys have been doing this for the past like 5 years for me. I mean, I'm gonna call out Sanford again because he doesn't receive enough praise, and he deserves more praise, even though he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
But I would not be the heathen today if it was not for him.
I have to agree with that on my own journey. He's helped me a lot.
As much as he doesn't want to take credit for things, he is essentially teaching like a new generation of heathens. And I think, and same with you, Mac. I mean, you're teaching a new generation of heathens as well, and it's so, it's so, we need those different perspectives. We need those different kinds of insights. I mean, when it comes to when it comes with you and your music, and just intricate knowledge of the lore, and the poetry, and the way you smith words, with Sanford, with his the intricate studies that he does. I mean, the man's got a PhD from Iceland, for God's sake. Like, he's Dr. Sanford Kaufman. And
Yeah.
I need the business card with that. Or even like with you, Colby, like you doing, like, working with Kurt, and diving deep into Sather, and it's sharing the knowledge of, like, just how different vibrations of drum beats, or different kinds of drum beats, can put you into different states of mind. Like, this is like, these are things that when you have new heathens come in, and you're having all these different perspectives and different like outlooks, it's such a rich environment of like growth and learning, not only just like in your mind and your body, but spiritually as well. And I think it's so important. And this format with these chats that you do is something, again, that is so important, and is so, again, it sparks discussion. It sparks different kinds of thoughts, and different kinds of, like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Like, these things are so important, and these things have been so important to my growth as well. So as much as some people want to downplay their their involvement with shaping the new generation of heathens, I'm like, I definitely think that what you're doing, what Sanford's doing, what Colby's doing, like, I think what all you guys are doing is essentially just you're teaching the next people, and you're teaching heathenry differently than when it was taught to in the past. And I think that's such a beautiful thing.
And I agree, because I mean, Mac, not only just this, but your rune readings, doing that, making that a more public thing. Because I've seen your meetings, your meets in Midgard on TikTok. Yeah, it may start small, but the more people that interact and the more people that share it, it's going to start gaining more popularity. You're going to help educate other heathens, like Will said, on what it means to be a heathen, and how to help them interpret the runes in different ways, other than kind of just standing there and saying, okay, now what? I mean, you're giving insights to that. But like Will said, these discussions and new ideas, new concepts, and I'm going to even throw you out there, Will, and teachings of interactions with the Yolnar, and like with Mangaloth, like offerings, like I had no idea. And now every time that comes up, and somebody feels they need that emotional, spiritual healing, she's who I reference. And I go, I reference you. I'm like, my brother Will taught me this. These are offerings to give.
Mhm.
Hey man, I'm just vibing here, man. I appreciate. I mean, half the time I don't know what I'm doing. I just go with the flow. But I appreciate that.
Well, in that regards, I mean, yes, I think it's important to study lores that you feel drawn to, but I mean, my practice has never been based around what a lore says. It's always been UPG focused. Now, if my UPG ends up matching a lore, then it's obviously no longer UPG, it's VPG. And for those who don't know, UPG, unverified personal gnosis, BPG, verified by some type of lore. There's even SPG of a shared personal gnosis or a shared experience that may or may not necessarily be connected to lore, but I mean, still, it's powerful stuff. And in the beginning, that's really how it all started.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, giving a shout out to Ayla as well. You're pretty good.
Oh my gosh.
You taught me a lot as well. In the short time that I've known you, Ayla, you the amount of knowledge that you have and the passion that you do when you practice is I can't describe it. It's awesome. Like the killing that you did was magical. So yeah,
I gotta say, and again, Sanford, every time I'm like, I need you, he's available. He's there. Just a strong pillar. I cannot say enough good things about this man. Ayla taught me so much in such a short amount of time. I'm blown away. I'm truly blown away. These are two people that I'm just like, oh my gosh, they're on another level. Ayla made a comment in the chat, and she says, I feel moved to say, related to what Colby is saying, is it is going to become increasingly more important to temper our reactions with everything happening in our country right now. Do not let anyone or entity of the state lead you to panic or react in fear. This is back when we were talking about how we react. Stay calm, breathe, make a plan, band together. Don't let them separate us. Reacting in fear or panic always puts us in a precarious position. We're way more powerful when we are calm, calculated, and together. Again, like when they speak, you shut up and you listen. That's the thing. But and I know I've told you guys this before. There are certain heathens in the community that I just regard on a certain level. I think their caliber is just exceptional. Will, Colby, you are on that list. Ayla, Sanford, Topher. The list is short, but it is like a powerful group of people, and I do believe that the more you guys speak publicly, the more that the people hear what you have to say, that there is, it's enriching the heathen culture that we want to foster today. And it's important. It is really important for us to be heard in a sea that can drown people out. So, I appreciate you guys when I have you guys on here, speaking your mind, saying your piece, and sharing your insights and wisdom. I truly, truly appreciate it. I learn, have been a heathen for a long time now, but I learn every time I'm with you guys. My mind is being blown. I'm learning. I'm like, just like, wow, and that's what we're supposed to do as heathens. We continue our journey of learning all the time. So
I want to add, just because I did catch your little motion there of trying to cut yourself out of the hype of it. I'm gonna reference something that Sanford kept trying to ingrain in my mind. Know your worth. Goes for all of us. Like, know your worth. Don't let those voices in your head tell you lies that we have been led to believe from our trauma.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, Will, you're the shit. So like,
stop.
I do want to also reference a comment by Sanford a while back. I kind of caught it. I didn't fully read it, but about stroking his ego, and he's over there brushing his hair. And the mental image I got right now of it, just him with his brush, just brushing his hair, like some of the elves in Lord of the Rings would, and just
He
that's
loves
just
me.
the
He
mental
loves
image
me
I
not.
got right now.
I could see Sanford right now with the brush to going like 98, 99, 100. Isn't that right? So yeah, I mean, such a big thing, and I'm glad that people agree to do these talks with me. I didn't know, like, when I first started doing it, like, what it was going to be like, how it would transform, or what it would end up being. But
Oh, it's fun
man,
as hell. It's so much fun.
yeah, even like when before we start the live and after we finish, it's just a riot. Like, just having you guys in this same room is just totally awesome. It's just a great energy. So.
Yeah.
But and another thing, Will, and Ayla's hitting on this too now, that you have an amazing that you're amazing. You have a strong connection to the spirit world, and so you're talking about like you know, I mean, the knowledge that Sanford has in his head about everything, and then like even when I talk to him, I'm like always learning, and I'm like, how do you fit all of this in your head, you know? And at times I'll feel like, oh my gosh, maybe I don't know how to be a heathen, you know, or whatever. But I think, Will, you have a real like natural connection with it. And it's not necessarily like the words or something you say, it's your, and you know, you were saying you earlier, you were just vibing. Like your vibe is totally like just right on point with heathen and animism, and it transfers out. You know, it's contagious. It's great. I love it. Colby, you
Man, I just wanna hug some trees. That's all I want to do.
and that is a direct, you know, a core value I believe in heathenry. And Colby, you have your natural gifts as well, and you just don't rely on what other people are, you know, lore and things tell you. You go with where you know your soul is taking you, and you incorporate the shamanism in there, which is and concepts that you know for meditation, things I didn't know, and you know I'm definitely taking you up on that
Yeah.
offer with the drumming too. So yeah, everyone brings a unique perspective into this, and it makes us like so much stronger when we're all together like this, bringing in our strengths. It's amazing. I love it. And
Yeah,
we totally got off on a tangent.
Yeah, we did.
no, it was just like the last like 30 minutes of it's just like it's just I love you. You're great. You're great. You're great. You're great. Everyone's
I
great.
know. Yeah, we're all kissing each other's ass right now.
Why is
um,
my tongue brown?
all right, let me wash that thought down.
Uh,
So I did a part two of this because we ran out of time last week, and we're kind of running long again this week. And I still have, believe it or not, 5 more questions. Would you guys be interested in doing a part 3?
yeah,
I think we kind of
go.
need to at this point.
Yeah, I was like, we're doing part 3, are we?
This will be like the eternal series. It just goes on.
This is like we're gonna be talking about like, so what kind of rocks did you guys find today? It's like I found a rock shaped like a horse. I found one shaped like the number 3.
Today's episode is brought to you by the letter E.
And I'm sure I'd still run out of time with
Doggos.
just 3 questions.
Doggies.
Oh my gosh. So we'll do a part 3 next week. I have Sanford and Topher coming on the show. So our part 3 will probably be after that, which is awesome. Also, I had chatted with you guys earlier. I want to do a series, or it could even still be a Meets in Midgard, for people that are new to heathenry, what pitfalls to avoid, take it from people who have gone through it. You still have the Christian structure in your head, how to kind of deprogram yourself so that you can get the full experience of being a heathen. And Will, Colby, you've agreed to go on that with me. I totally am grateful for that. I'll be asking a few other people as well. So Sanford, Ayla, Topher, expect an invite for that one as well. But you guys, I'll go ahead,
I
go.
see, real quick, I see Sanford's comment about singing and on it goes. And I actually had a similar thought, just talking about doing part 3. This is a podcast that never ends. It goes on and on.
I might have to play that at the beginning of the third one.
It's gonna be like 2035, and we're just like on part like 104. It's just like
I mean, seriously, we're coming up on 2 hours. We got through 3 questions.
Hey, we made progress.
yeah,
we did.
we're like the people that are just like we're just like one person digging in the hole, and it's just the 3 other people that just standing around watching him. It's just like, yeah, that's pretty good work.
Yeah, keep up the great work.
Meanwhile,
how many people does it take to finish a podcast?
Meanwhile, we're all standing facing backwards, throwing the dirt back in the center and not realizing it.
It started like, hey guys, welcome to my heathen vlog. Today I'm gonna take 5 pieces of meat and I'm gonna offer it all to Odin. We're gonna go out the woods and we're gonna do it.
Or like that one meme. That one meme. I promise I didn't add magic mushrooms into the mead. Me 3 hours later.
It's just hammer hippier.
I can see Colby with his Starbucks. Get your lattes. Get your selfie sticks. We're going to the woods.
We're going to the woods. We're going to summon a demon.
Oh, you're a Duncan guy.
I'm a Duncan fan.
We're gonna find the trolls and we're gonna boop their noses.
Hang on, I gotta give them vaccine.
Colby, and this is a side note. It has nothing to do with the whole heathen thing, but you inspired me to write this song called, and I'll share it with you when I'm done recording it. I'll send you the lyrics though, but it's called "It's Me, I'm Bitches." And it talks. It's basically saying, "Bitches love pumpkin spice."
Yes, we do. I have no shame in admitting that. I am a basic white bitch in that context.
Yeah.
Even some of my clients know that. Had one gave me a $50 gift card to Starbucks one day and said, "Now you can get a bunch of pumpkin spice lattes."
Loki seems like a pumpkin spice kind of person. Just like, girl, is that pumpkin spice for me?
You shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But if I ever shoot a music video for it, you're gonna have to be in it, Colby.
I want to see the Loki outfit and just Starbucks everything.
Done. Consider it done.
I'll send you guys the lyrics in the chat.
Next time I have some pumpkin spice stuff, I'll put on my Loki outfit and I'll take a picture for you.
It's just the tune to Goodbye Horses, and it's just like, would you have pumpkin spice or have pumpkin spice? You just like pour it on yourself.
No. What I'm gonna have playing in the background is music. You'll have to look it up, but it's on YouTube, and I know the terminology is not the best, so I apologize in advance for that. But it is called the Retarded Horse Song.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah. So that music that they have playing, I don't know where that originates from, like who did the song, but it's just completely whimsical, nonsensical ridiculousness. So I'm gonna have that playing while I'm drinking a pumpkin spice latte in my Loki outfit.
Oh yeah. That's good.
What madness is this?
Are you mad? Probably.
I know, yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show today. I cannot thank you guys enough. Next week is going to be incredible. Sanford Topher. And then hopefully the following week, you guys, if you're available, let's see if we can wrap this up. If not, expect a part 4. Yeah. Oh my God, today learned so many things. The story with Valley, and then how everything just got personal for me, and I feel really moved and compelled right now to like be more connected with people, and to do this. So yeah, as I said, I have something I'm working on that's going to be a thing I'll share with you guys later. But yeah, man, today was moving. It was great. I have a lot to think about today. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Of course, and thank you.
This was a blast. This is the highlight of my week. I love seeing your beautiful faces again.
We need to put that on like a billboard. Highlights of Will's week.
I know.
Right? the sports broadcast. Highlights of Will's week. Brought to you by Matt.
Man, I'm doing shit myself, and I think it's a sign from Heimdall.
What we can't see is from this angle is Will's dream board in the background. Everything
Sometimes I think about them all the time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so, and everyone that joined in watching us today, Jessica, Sanford, Rachel, Ayla, other people in there, I'm sure, even if you didn't comment, thank you guys so much. This will be also on the YouTube channel, and it'll be here live on Facebook for anyone that wants to watch it again. I think they only keep lives for 30 days, but they will forever be memorialized on my YouTube channel, Meets in Midgard. So thank you guys so much. If you guys will stay around so I can give you a proper goodbye, I'll be ending this live stream here. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye. Bye.